Good evening and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. Tonight we are live from Studio Vanguard and we're linked in with the following repeaters.
Tonight we are live on Flagship, Watkinsville, Lula, Jersey, Toccoa, McDonough, Buckhead, Columbus, Noonan, Zebulon, Rome, Peachtree, Dallas, White Oak, Cades Cove, Lookout Mountain, Fort Mountain, Mount Roosevelt, Georgetown, Chattanooga, and Ottawa.
Tonight, our RF coverage encompasses approximately 41,000 square miles. This net takes place every Thursday evening at 7:30. I would like to thank everyone who has made the North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 947, WQYR 514. My name is Julie.
In Atlanta 946. WQYR 514. It's kind of funny, those are the same. My name is Justin.
And WSAL 368, Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
And WRUB 711, Atlanta 519. My name is Gary.
On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we would like to hear. This is a family-based network, so we encourage you to get your family involved. Guest check-ins are welcome from anyone with a valid FCC call sign. Once the floor is open, it's permissible to address other members of the net by their name or tactical unit number. Your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and when you sign out of the net. Also, you can tune in to our YouTube channel and follow along. Or even better, tune in after the net and hear how you sound to us right here in Studio Vanguard. Let me break. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment so we know you were watching. These interactions mean the most to help our channel grow. So please interact with it.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, comment.
Absolutely.
All of those things. If you do all of those things, it's worth even more.
That's right. So tonight's topic is going to be Part 90 and Part 95 radios.
Partly.
Partly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Partly. You heard it from the man. But before we dive into that, let's go ahead and go to this week's announcements. Who's doing that tonight?
Mike is going to do that from way up on the ridge.
In salad bowl?
In the salad bowl.
Yeah,
on the
salad
ridge.
bowl on the ridge.
The salad ridge in the bowl. I'm not sure which way that plays, but Free Salad will be with us here momentarily.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63, live from the Salad Ridge or Bowl on the Ridge, Ridge in the Bowl, well, whatever your preference. I do have tonight's announcements, some upcoming events and gatherings to tell you about that are around the corner, so pay attention and write these down if you are interested. These meetups are a great way to meet fellow North Georgia members in and around your area. First one up, coming a little over 2 weeks from now, Billy, Atlanta 924, has taken the initiative to put together a new lunch meetup for folks in the Jasper, LIJ, and Canton area. That'll be at Biggins Barbecue on Saturday, August 16th at 11:30 a.m. All family, friends, and guests are invited. The restaurant's located on 515 between Jasper and LIJ. If you've got any questions, reach out to Billy, Atlanta 924 on the air. The Peachtree Corners Brunch Bunch meets the third Saturday of every month at JR's Log House in Peachtree Corners. So the date for the next one will be Saturday, August 16th. You can reach out to Pamela, Atlanta 849, if you have any questions or want more information. They've got a good-looking menu. The Northeast Bunch had their monthly lunch meetup yesterday at the Roosters Cafe in Dahlonega. The next one will be Wednesday, August 27th, 11 a.m. As always, all current and future members are welcome. And if you need any more information, contact Atlanta 403-BOBBY or Joe, Gainesville 44. They hope to hear you there. Let me break. The next event is the West Side Luncheon. The next iteration of that will be Saturday, August 9th at 11 a.m. at the Taco Mac. The address is 2650 Dallas Highway in Marietta. Let's join with the Rabbit Hole crew and enjoy good food and fellowship. You gotta love those rabbit wings. The Kennesaw Gathering will have its next Meet and Geek meetup on Tuesday, August 12th at noon at the Old Town Grill on Cobb Parkway, right around the corner from the McCollum Airport. Rogers has got the map up on the screen. Bring your radio or programming issues that you have to discuss. Ed and the team will have a mobile test bench available after lunch if needed, where they can test and program most of the popular radios at that time. Reach out to Ed, Atlanta 557 beforehand on the air, or you can send him an email at wrq806@gmail.com. If you're planning to attend, so that he makes sure to reserve enough seats, and let him know ahead of time if you have any radios that you need help with, so he can make sure to have the right programming, cables, and software on hand. Don't forget the Chattanooga Hamfest 2025 is coming up Friday, October 3rd, and Saturday, October 4th. We're giving you plenty of time to mark it on your calendars and make reservations, plans to attend. The Chattanooga Amateur Radio Club and the North Georgia GMRS Network have joined together to host this at a spectacular new venue called the Colonnade in Ringgold, Georgia. You can visit the Hamfest website at www.hamfestchattanooga.net for more information. That's it. That's the end of the announcements. If you have any questions, comments, or news to share, please send an email to justin@nggmrs.org. All right, Julie, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Mike. We appreciate you filling in from the ridge over there. Sorry you couldn't make it here. We miss you here in the studio. We're going to go ahead and move on to the new user tips and operating procedures, and we're going to talk a little bit about Part 95 FCC rules. So there are many poorly informed sources that would like us to believe only Part 95 radios can be used in GMRS service. However, this is only part of the truth. A lot of the confusion stems from the rule revisions that came about in 2017. Those rule changes were made in part to limit the improper use of radios and improper marketing of radios for use in GMRS. The rule also clarified limitations for FRS radios and made clear the 2-watt rule for unlicensed FRS operation. If you hear unlicensed users on GMRS frequencies, they're probably nearby FRS users, so don't panic. A careful read through the rules will reveal under Part 95.1761, Subpart C, that no GMRS transmitter will be certified for use in the GMRS if it is equipped with a frequency capability not listed in 95.1763. Unless such transmitter is also certified for use in another radio service for which the frequency is authorized and for which certification is also required. But don't just take someone's word for it. Research this yourself. The rules are published online, and there are links to the rules from our website. Be informed so that when you encounter someone less informed, you can be confident in your knowledge of the rules. The predecessor to GMRS was named Class A Citizens Radio Service when it was commissioned in the 1960s. Sometime later, the UHF 450 to 470 megahertz band was reallocated to 25 kilohertz channels, and in the 70s, Class A Citizens band became General Mobile Radio Service, GMRS as we know it now. Since GMRS lives right in the middle of the 450 to 470 commercial band, we enjoy the benefit of commercial radios being readily available. Let me break. But in the 70s, consider what GMRS radio was. Very few Part 95 radios were available. However, Part 90 radios for commercial service were very common. In fact, until recently, there were very few Part 95 radios on the market, and very few repeaters were Part 95. Today, there are many Part 95 options, but Part 90 radios were and are commonly used in GMRS radio service. Have confidence that North Georgia GMRS operates in accordance with all FCC rules and regulations, and we expect our members to do so as well. These are just a few of the new user tips and operating procedures. I hope you'll tune in next week for my next episode of Julie's Tips and Operating Procedures. And if you have any questions or suggestions for new user tips and operating procedures, send me a note at julie@nggmrs.org. We are North Georgia GMRS Network, and this is WQIR 514, Atlanta 947. My name is Julie, and I'm clear. Good night, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Julie. That was a great intro to tonight's topic and some food for thought. So, in the past, we've had kind of a lot of resistance to the idea of Part 90 radios. But when you think about the history of GMRS radio and in its origins, there weren't a lot of, in fact, even when you and I became involved in GMRS radio, there weren't a lot of radios available for GMRS use as far as Part 95 radios. We started off with the BTEC
Yes.
GMRS V1. That was a $50-ish radio.
But in all fairness, that was a lot due in part with we didn't know anything about Radio World, and we didn't know how far down the path we were going to take this or get involved. You know,
Right.
it was really experimental, I would say.
Well, it was, and $70 for a license,
Right.
a 5-year license at that time, and so $125. We were all in for GMRS, but we chose to go that way because, like you say, didn't know if this was something that was going to become serious or if this was just
Right.
the fad of the moment, and so we weren't willing to really invest very much money, but. Also at that time, looking around at other radios that were available, it wasn't until sometime later that the Radioddity radios hit the market, and those radios were, I think, in the $30 to $40 range. They were a little less expensive for a GMRS Part 95 radio, and then shortly after that, more and more radios came to the market. The Wuxi radio. Several variations of the Radioddity from the same radio rebranded under 3 or 4 different brand names at 3 or 4 different price points too. So radios basically were rebadged from a common manufacturer, but marketing and advertising was pretty good for some of those brands. But the bottom line is that all of these radios, as inexpensive as they are consumer grade radios. When GMRS came to be, there was an availability of commercial radios on the market that would serve that purpose, and that's what a lot of people used. In fact, in the early days of GMRS, how many GMRS Part 95 repeaters do you think there were?
I'm sure you're going to tell us.
So it was around 2018 or 2019 that the Redivis GMRS repeater came to be, and that's a neat little package, but that's a 5-watt repeater. And it's not a commercial duty machine. That's not something that you're going to set on a tower at flagship and expect it to last for more than a few weeks. Well, the tally light's flashing, telling me I should brake.
You should break.
We're going to call that the Jeff light. So the Jeff light appears to be working well. So those radios in the early days of GMRS were all the repeaters were Part 90 commercial repeaters. Unless somebody took a pair of Part 95 radios, and I remember seeing the kits and being interested in them, where you could buy a box that would basically plug into a pair of Bofang or whatever radios you chose to buy cables for, and turn a pair of radios into a sort of a repeater. Performance probably not that great out of HTs being used as repeaters, but that was an option. That was something that you could do, but that wasn't available in the 70s. That didn't come around until well into the 2000s. So these radios have been in service for GMRS radio for quite a long time, and the idea that you can't use anything but a Part 95 radio is just misinformed. So we'll open that conversation up to any questions or comments as we go, and we have plenty of check-ins so far, but most of them are in and out. So if you want to engage in this conversation, we're going to continue with check-ins. In fact, we're going to start with additional check-ins right now, and we're looking for check-ins from any repeater other than flagship. If you're checking in on a flagship machine, please hold your traffic. Net control, standing by.
This is
Sierra India Tango 925. using the Thompson repeater. The name here is Steve. Sierra Tango Echo Victor Echo.
Let's see it. This is WSFT 846, Chattanooga 248, Matt 04. Check me in, please.
This is WRKK 629, Chattanooga 84. Checking in.
Oh, I couldn't hear any of that.
If Mike can pull that one out of the mud.
This is Whiskey Sierra Alpha India 254, WSAI 254, Kai, checking in from McDonough. Not sure how I'm making it through. Check me in, check me out.
This is WSFH 294, Gainesville 420, Nick and Oakwood. Check me in and check me out.
WSJ I660 Atlanta 291 on the Buckhead repeater.
All right, let me go ahead and acknowledge a handful of these YouTube check-ins, and then we'll go to our RF check-in. So we've got Atlanta 123, Jarius and Allenwood is a YouTube check-in. See, is that the start of the list? I think it is. It is. Atlanta 420, William in Roswell checking in on YouTube. CW7 Neil in Winterville, Georgia, checking in on YouTube. Gainesville 63, Willard in Homer. WRQE398, R. Ferguson in Hayesville, Kansas. Miko from upstate New York, WRYQ727. We've got Atlanta 355, Damon in Canton. Also, we have Rome 11, Mark in Adairsville. Atlanta 273, Mitchell in Canton. We have WSIL 484, Sean in Bean Station, Tennessee. Atlanta 766, Jeff in Monroe. Columbus 25, Peter in West Point. Atlanta 138, Robert in Auburn. And Columbus 31, Don in Columbus are our YouTube check-ins so far. To the radio, we have we missed part of the call sign, but looks like it ended in 295. Steve is checking in as a guest. We've got you in log, but we don't have your full call sign, but that's okay. We've got you in there anyway. We've got you marked as in, so we'll be calling on you as we go. Chattanooga 248, Matthew in Old Fort. Chattanooga 84, Jim in Hickson. And there was a Buckhead check-in that was all noise. We weren't able to pull enough out of the noise to be able to put anything in a log. Other than we've got you logged in right now as didn't get traffic on Buckhead. So if that was you, you might have to try again. We heard WSAI 254 Kai in McDonough checking in tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, he's in and out. Gainesville 420 Nick in Oakwood in and out. Atlanta 291 Christian on the Buckhead machine is in and out. And Christian, if you could, next time you get into programming your radio, and this goes for, I've heard a handful of new users on the air this week. We would ask that you, when you program your radio, that you disable the MDS tones and also any Roger beep or Roger functionality. The Nextel, or not the Nextel, but the Kenwood NX trunking tones, any of those things, we'd like for those to be turned off. You know, it's kind of cool when you're brand new in a radio. It's kind of cool to hear the Roger beep, but some of us old hats that sit and monitor the radio all day long and hear the squawk of the MDS tones. Oh yeah, the light's flashing again. I ignored that light just like I ignored the timer, didn't I? Don't I?
It's a little police light here.
Just like we ignored Jeff when he was.
Just like, all right. So the Jeff light's flashing. I'm gonna break. All right. So if you would, when you get in to your radio to program that, turn those tones off, because we don't care to hear them throughout the day on while we're monitoring. Looks like we've got one more YouTube check-in. The Velvet Elvis, Chattanooga 69. Ronnie from Las Vegas is checking in on YouTube tonight. That's where we're at. We'll continue with check-ins from any repeater anywhere, including the flagship machine. One at a time, please.
This is WRZG 694 Atlanta 785, Rick in Atlanta. This is WRXM 345, Gainesville 43, David and Winder. In and out.
This is WRQ G806, Atlanta 557, Ed in Kennesaw, and I think I might have been the mysterious Buckhead of Nothing But Static check-in before. Checking in.
Sierra India Tango 925. I think I had somebody couldn't hear the complete call sound. Steve and Thomaston, we had a storm come through just a few minutes ago. Check me in and out, please.
This is WSAM 586 Atlanta 255. I'll be in and out, but monitoring.
This is WRYZ 968, Gainesville 100, Randall and Buford. Check me in and check me out.
This is Atlanta 1402. Todd in Silver City. Fellas, check me in and out. Looking forward to listening. This is WRDF 441, Atlanta 419. Checking in from my sweet spot. This is WSGS 735, and then in 40, arrest us in Palmetto, Georgia. In and out, please. This is WSJB 853, Roosevelt 34. Right. Yeah.
sent it. Be an email from me. Go to sent right here. That image.
This one.
Save that when the data comes on. We want to use that one.
Okay.
All right. Let's go ahead and acknowledge this round of check-ins. We heard Atlanta 785 Rick in Marietta didn't give an in and out. We also didn't hear an in and out from Gainesville 43 David in Winder. We did hear in and out from Atlanta 255 Jennifer in Dawsonville. We heard Gainesville 100 Randall in Buford. It was great to see you Saturday. Thanks for coming out, Randall. I appreciate that. Atlanta 1402 Todd in Sugarville is in and out. Atlanta 419 Jason in Cumming is in and out. Noonan 40 Orestes in Palmetto is in and out. And Roosevelt 34 Trey in Rockwood is in and out. Also checking in on YouTube, we have WSJH522 Ben in Knoxville and WRQZ941. Oh, that's Rome 12. Mark. That's Mark in Rome. That's who that is. So glad to have all of you along. Do we need to take? This is it, right? This is where we're at for check-ins.
I think that's everybody.
Yeah. So here's what we'll do. Anybody? Oh, I missed WRQG806. That would be Atlanta 557. Ed in Kennesaw is in tonight. Did I miss anybody else, Mike? He says nope. Okay.
WRWM 344. Nope, you're good. Ed was the static check-in on Buckhead. I think that gives us everybody.
All right. Excellent. Excellent job. Mike is logging remotely tonight and doing an amazing job. And even though he's not sitting right here beside me, he's found magic tricks to draw my attention in the log to help me keep from missing things. So
Yeah, I saw that little highlight pop up.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that fantastic? Very, very sharp thinking. So good stuff. If only he were here to remind me of the timeout. You know, I don't have Mike here, but I do have Jeff. Jeff is back in the studio in the form of a flashing light. So I'm glad to have that.
You might actually see it in action on YouTube if you're watching the YouTube stream. You know, when we go to the wide shot, Rogers is pointing out the Jeff light integration that we now have in Vanguard. But you'll see how it works.
Yeah, if I hold the key down long enough, it'll start to flash. And we have I'm told to please show Pamela and Ernest is checked in and out. Are they in the log yet? I don't think they are. We'll get them in a log. Yep. Free Salad's doing it now. Atlanta 849 and Atlanta 848. Pamela and Ernest from Duluth are in and out. All right. Okay. So let's go to the top. And do we have anything else to address before we go?
I think we're ready to rock and roll.
All right. All right, then. Let's go to the top and see if there are any comments or questions. And for those of you hanging out on YouTube, if you have any comments or questions about tonight's topic, if you'll make mention of that in the chat, Mike will draw my attention to it at some point, and we'll try to get your questions answered over the air and on the live stream. We're trying to be as interactive as we can in the format that we have. So with that, let's go ahead to the top of the roster. And it looks like first on the list is Atlanta 403, Bobby at the Vortex. Bobby, do you have any questions or comments for Part 90 radios tonight?
Well, good evening, everybody. Yeah, I don't have any real questions or comments for that. I'd like to see the schematic for the 2-minute timeout timer warning light. But, yeah, I've been running Part 90s since the beginning, since I joined up in late 17 or the beginning of 2018, somewhere around then. And, yeah, that's all I ever been running was the Part 90 commercial ICOMs, of course, because, you know, I'm the ICOM guy. But, yeah, we had a good lunch yesterday, and I thank everybody for showing up. And, I really don't have any comments. And I got a comment, but I'll keep that off the air about the Part 90 stuff. So. But back to you, Ned.
No, very good. I know that you're a fan of those ICOM radios and have been for a very long time, and they serve you pretty well. However, what radio are you using at the moment, Bobby?
At the moment, I would happen to be at the Vortex, so I'm on a Kenwood 8180 over here, and yeah, but my truck and my base station at home and all my portables, they're all ICOMs. I get a couple both things mixed in there, but those are the hand them to people who are going to drop them at cert event radios, so I'm not too worried about it.
Well, I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, that he's on the Kenwood radio over at Joe's place tonight, because with his radios he can only monitor. ICOM.
I can only monitor.
Yeah, that's right. So, just kidding. Those are great radios. They're very, very good radios to use. And the Part 90 radios perform excellent. I've got one or two of them here in a box somewhere. We had planned on using them for nodes, and in our testing and research, they carry a tone in that function that we couldn't get rid of. So we ended up reverting back to, and we found that the 8180 is really the best radio for integrating into the network for node operations. So Studio Vanguard has an 8180 and a 7180. Studio G is equipped with the same pair of radios, and they've just proven to be a very good radio for interfacing. So within the I/O on that radio, you can access so many different functions. So you get a carrier detect, you get PTT, you get audio in and out. Everything you could want on that 25-pin connector on the back of the radio. It's all there, and it's very well documented, and it's very easy to integrate. But also, speaking of Part 90 radios, so the Part 95 radios, the availability of them is great, and there's a lot of inexpensive radios on the market, and I wouldn't suggest that we shouldn't start. We all have to start somewhere, right? What was your first radio, Rogers?
My first radio was a Baofeng GM30, like the little green HT.
Yeah.
That
30,
was the first
40
one
bucks?
Yeah, about $30.
Yeah.
But, when you know better, you do better.
That's right. Yeah.
I graduated to more and more and better.
And that's one of the cool things about GMRS radio. The license now is $35, and it's good for 10 years. Way different than when I jumped into the pool. And you can get into this at the very basic level for under $100. And I mean, we've all blown $100 on dumb things before, so it's not that hard of a thing to come up with $100 to get into radio, to see if this is something you really want to play or not. Gary, what was your first radio?
I had a Woshin. Woshin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you spent a little bit more on a better radio.
A little bit more.
More bells and whistles.
More bells and whistles. It gave me frequencies to monitor.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a solid. It was an HT. It was a solid HT. I hit the repeaters and I sounded good on the network, and it served me well.
So that 4, 5, 6 years ago, what do you think it's time for me to time out. Let me break. It's working. So 4, 5, 6 years ago, what do you think you gave up for that Whoosh on radio?
Oh gosh, less, probably $100, less than $100. It was on the higher side.
Right around that.
Mm-hmm.
So there again, there's a lot of radios on the market now that just weren't there when Julie and I first got involved in GMRS radio. So there's a lot of choices, and you don't have to make a really huge investment. But for the kind of money that you would spend for the BTEC Mobile, that 50-watt mobile radio that they have, what is that radio? It's $399.
That was my first. That was my first mobile radio.
Yeah.
That I used as a base.
You still have it?
It was a No, I don't.
Okay.
It was a BTEC version 2, but it was a 50 watt.
How did it perform for you?
It performed well, but on the receive side, it didn't perform well on the receive side.
Yeah.
So I upgraded to a part 30 radio, and all of a sudden I can hear a lot better. I can receive a lot better now. So I feel like it's a more professional radio.
So in the commercial radios, you are going to find a better front end on the receive side of things, and a much more solid transmitter. And that's one of the things that we like about the Part 90 radios. These are radios that are built for commercial applications. The radios that are installed in dump trucks and police cars and buses. These are radios that are put in industrial service and commercial service. We use those radios on the railroad. We use the 2-meter version of those radios, but VHF voice radios. But we use a lot of them on the railroad. Same radio that we would drive around for our mobiles. Now the locomotives have a completely different form factor for the radio. It's a great big thing, but it's a commercial radio. They're industrial radios. They're space shuttle radios. They're really, really hardened. But and I don't know. I mean, the locomotive runs a 74-volt bus, so it's going to be hard to adapt that to an automotive application, or I don't know of any 74-volt desktop power supplies.
No, that would be kind of tough to.
Yeah, I'm sure we could make one, but
that's a lot of power.
That's toasty on DC voltage, so I don't really want to play with that. But commercial radios offer us a different level of performance and in so many ways it's a superior. Like Rogers pointed out, his first right out of the gate experience with a commercial radio was better received, and that's one of the things we can expect with a commercial radio is we're going to be able to hear things with coming. We can discern what we're hearing from a lighter signal than we would be able to discern with a consumer grade radio. You just can't put that much money into. Looky there, the light came on. Let me rake. You just can't put that much money into the receive part of a radio when you're selling them for $30 or $50 or even $100. So that is a difference maker right there, and that's one that you can recognize. So why a Part 90 radio? I mean, isn't that expensive? In some cases it is, but when you're looking at $399 for a BTEC mobile radio, for just a little bit more, what is it, $435, $440, somewhere in that range, you can get into a Kenwood NX series radio from Hobbit Communications, and that radio comes with a 3-year warranty. It's a rugged, heavy-duty commercial grade radio that will it'll just last as long as you're engaged in radio. It'll probably outlive your interest. And it's a radio that you'll be able to hand down someday and be able to pass on to other family members or friends and say, I used to use this all the time. Here, give it a try. These radios are just built differently, and they perform very well, and they're rock solid. Now, if you're talking about commercial HTs, now we are talking about a significant difference in cost. So I don't remember what Gary's HTs sell for. Off the top of my head, I probably should have asked him. Probably should have done a little more show prep. Probably should have asked him before we came on the air. But you're going to have considerably more money in a Kenwood HT than you're going to have in a BTEC or a Woshan or any of those brand names. So, but you're also going to have a difference in performance. You're going to have a commercial grade radio that you can drop it on the concrete and pieces aren't going to break off of it. You can get it wet and it's still going to work well. I don't recommend doing those things. I like to treat my stuff a little bit better than that. But life is life, and things happen. And I've dropped radios. You probably never have.
It has a few nicks and bruises.
Yeah,
I would say that. Yeah.
So one of the things, like if I wear something on my, I can't put a phone on a holster on my belt, because the way that I move around and the way that I do stuff, I'm just going to wipe that thing right off and break the case or break the phone. And these are things that have happened. So the same thing with the radio. If I try to clip a radio onto my belt, it's not going to stay there, and it's probably going to damage something in the process. So I'm really bad about carrying around an HT, to the point where I rarely ever do it. The other problem for me with carrying around an HT is I set them down, and then I forget about them. Jeff will tell you stories about how that happened, but
Justin, I compare the commercial grade radio. I kind of use a grill comparison. Time to break. So I use a grill comparison. You can get into grilling with a cheap charcoal, one of those real cheap aluminum, and you can grill. Or you can go green egg and cook really good. So it's kind of that same comparison. Lift the hood on your little aluminum charcoal grill, or go lift the hood on a green egg. Same thing. Lift up. Just have your Woshin in your hand, and then go pick up a Kenwood, and you can just physically feel a difference.
Well, sure. And from your industry, the cameras that the crews use, either mobile out in the field or even in the studio, are very, very different than the camcorder you're going to buy at Best Buy.
Right.
The camcorders that we buy at Best Buy, not that anybody ever buys them anymore, that era has kind of gone away. But they served a purpose, and they performed very well for us. But at the same time, they don't measure up to the capabilities that a commercial class camera in a TV studio or a TV remote van is going to have. And in terms of the way that they're built, their ruggedness and their capabilities, the electronics, they're night and day difference. And the same can be true for commercial versus consumer radios. And that's really what we're talking about with Part 90 versus Part 95.
And you look at, too, if you look at, a survival environment where you want a tool that will work, that you will key up and it's going to work, and you're lost somewhere on a mountaintop with no cell service, you want a working unit. You don't want something that you've dropped and you key it up and realize that it's not working.
But the Roger beep is cool.
Right. It is cool, but it doesn't serve a purpose.
That's true. And so many people have commented too about things like the Roger beep that so it's FM radio, right? This is FM radio that we're working within, and so the clarity is very different than it would be if we were trying to do HF single sideband, if we were trying to do AM style radio, even CB radio. In FM radio, there's a pretty distinct difference between when a signal is coming into your radio and when it's not. There's no ambiguity as to when the key gets dropped. It's pretty well understood that that's what happened and that's what's going on. So the need for a Roger beep just isn't there. If you're talking about AM radio, maybe you could warrant having that, because you may hear static even after the key, and it might be nice to have something that tells you that, okay, that transmission just ended because the person let off on the key and the radio is telling us that. Alternatively, the courtesy tone that comes from a repeater is a nice thing to have, because that tells you that you've made the repeater. But at the same time, that courtesy tone also encourages kerchunking. How many times have you seen or heard or even yourself key to radio just to be able to hear the courtesy tone come back from the repeater, just to know that it's there and that you're connected, rather than call out to someone? So we discourage kerchunking on the network for the same reasons we discourage Roger beeps. We if you're going to come on the air, then come on the air and make a call out. And it's just as easy to come on the air and ask Atlanta 250 to tell you what time of the day it is, as it is to come on the air and ask for a Roger beep. It's just that one is more conversational than the other. So if you're asking for radio checks, just ask something else. The effect is the same. You get the same information about the performance of your radio and what you can hear. It just makes it a different kind of a conversation and can open up other topics as well. But back to the radios and the commercial radios. One of the things that we've talked about is how often we find a brand new user has gone out and spent a couple of $100 on a new radio. And I hate it when we hear of people spending good money on consumer radios. And there's a particular brand that I don't really want to mention, but they're expensive and they're neat radios. They're very, very well marketed. But you could have spent the same money or less on a high quality Part 90 radio from Hobbit Communications and end up with a Kenwood radio that's got a 3-year warranty and is just going to last, and it's going to perform very, very well. Bobby is out there right now monitoring on Joe's Kenwood 8180. Who knows how old that radio is? That radio has lived an entire life before Joe got a hold of it, because Joe most likely bought it off of eBay, or he bought it from Gary, or he bought it from some other reseller that has reconditioned that radio. And by recondition, I mean they probably wiped it off really well and they programmed it. If it came from Gary, it was put on the service monitor and it was tuned so that there's my light again. Let me brake. I'm going to get used to this light. That's going to work out well.
Every time I see that, I feel like the police are just right behind me.
I
see those flashing lights there.
It's the TOT police.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go spend that money on a Kenwood radio at Hobbit Communications instead of a disappointing radio from another retailer. The whole point of Hobbit Communications is not so much that we want to sell a bunch of radios, but that we want to make quality radios available to the network. Really, the goal here was to make it easy for people to find a high quality, high performance radio that's really priced about the same as the consumer radios are. So whether you're going to buy the BTEC or the Woshi radio, you're going to spend roughly $400. You're going to spend just over $400 at Hobbit for the mobile radio. And all the accessories. If you need accessories, if you need microphones, if you need a desktop mic, if you need a power supply, if you need antennas, you need mobile antennas or base antennas, it's all there. And so you can really get the whole package, just like you would get the whole package if you ordered a Midland radio. And that's one of the things that Midland does really, really well, is marketing and packaging their radios to sell as a plug-and-play kit. Everything you need is right here in the box, and you can open the box and be on the air in about an hour. You can get everything you need from Hobbit. You just are going to buy them separately, but probably spend about the same as you would for the Midland. So I would encourage anyone that's considering a new radio, especially new users. We never get to the new users quickly enough. They always buy the radio first and then find us. I don't know what to do about that, but we hate to hear that people have spent good hard-earned money on less than great radios, and that's really the point of Hobbit Communications. But all right, with that, Bobby, did you have anything to add? Are you busy with dinner?
I think Coco had timed out. I only had part of that. What did you ask me? Try that again.
Oh, we got a fancy timeout light now. I don't think Tacoa timed out. I think you were busy. You were busy and distracted, and you weren't paying attention to anything that I said. So, I just asked if you had anything to follow up with regard to commercial grade radios versus consumer radios.
Not really. Everything you said just about covers it. I agree 100%. And if those ICOMs you got are 221 F221s, me and Jeff were supposed to look into them, but he had no extra ones to give me. I get the programming for that, and I've been trying to look for a 221 to mess with to see if I can get that tone off. So link up with me and get me one of those radios so I can play with it and see if I can get that tone you're talking about off of there.
Yeah, I'll have to see if I can locate it. A lot of that stuff got stuffed in a box and stored away when we closed up Studio B, and is waiting for the new Studio B to come out of the box and find a purpose. So this might be good timing. If I can find that radio and get it in your hands, maybe you can get that cleaned up and sorted out before it has a reason to go back into play at Studio B. Thank you for that, Bobby. I'll have to make an effort and see if I can get that located and put that in your hands. Next on the list, we've got Chattanooga 260 Colt in Dalton. Colt, I know, is a Part 90 radio nut. He's got some pretty cool radios, and he's got some pretty cool Part 97 radios too. But I know that Colt would never use a Part 97 radio on North Georgia GMRS Network. What brought you into Part 90 radios, Colt?
Chatting at 260 here, WSC and 494. Before I self-incriminate, let me just clarify that Part 90 is legal on GMRS. Is that correct?
That is correct. Part 90 radios are legal for use on North Georgia GMRS Network and in GMRS in general. Part 97 radios are not. So, you know what the difference is, right?
Sir, I think this would be a great time for you to clarify the difference. Chatting 260.
Well, Part 97 radios are actually not. There is no Part 97 type acceptance with the FCC, right? Part 97 are the amateur radio rules, and so amateur radios are not Part 90 or Part 95 or Part 97 type accepted FCC radios. There's no type acceptance in amateur radio. You can pretty much run whatever can be operated within the legal limits. So the FCC leaves that up to the operator to figure out and to understand, and the expectation is that the amateurs will self-police and rein in any bad actors themselves without having to involve the authorities. And every now and then, it's more than the hands can do to regulate themselves, and they need a little bit of help. But for the most part, self-regulation is the way of things in amateur radio. And it's also the way of things in GMRS radio. Nothing really stops anyone from using a part accepted radio or not part accepted radio, right? I can't tell the flavor of energy coming off being radiated from your antenna. I can't know whether it's coming from a Yaesu or a Kenwood or a Daewoo. I don't know what flavor those airwaves have been colored by. So it's up to the person transmitting to speak about what radio they're using, and then if they're using an improper radio, well, I can't know about it. If I find out about it, or if Gary finds out about it, in the interest of protecting the network, we have to put a stop to it, because that puts us in cahoots with whoever's using an improper radio, and so we need to act to protect licensing and the organization. So, with that in mind, you would never transmit on the network with a Part 97 or anything other than a Part 95 or Part 90 radio. Am I correct?
That is solid copy, sir. I held so many FCC licenses that I would never jeopardize myself or the network.
So tell me about some of your Part 90 radios.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Chatting at 260 here, WSC and 494. I will tell you, anybody listening, if you're looking to buy a radio, you should go to Hobbit. These guys, your moderators, the people who are admins on this network have way more experience than I do, and have cracked the codes and know what works and sounds great. Let me break. That being said, I have a Kenwood. I love Kenwood, and for GMRS, Kenwood is great, especially the newer things that Hobbit comes with. And I tell you that I've signed up with Hobbit, and I bought some of their secondhand stuff. All that to be said is I'm a weird Motorola guy. I love Motorola Part 90 radios. I have went through the process of learning how to program them, which is probably harder than landing on the moon. And sometimes they're harder to find. I'm a big Motorola APX guy, APX 7000, 8000, and my newest radio is a Motorola APX Next. That being said, I have a county-issued radio from one of the counties I'm with, which is, I don't even know all the details ins and outs of it, to be honest with you, the Motorola APX Next. And it came with all my GMRS stuff preloaded into it because EMAs in the state believe that GMRS is such a crucial avenue to have in all of our radios for critical life-saving things. I'm a big Motorola APX 8000 guy, Motorola APX 7000 guys, which are licensed up to 512 megahertz. But that being said, GMRS is such a great thing, and there's always a gray area in a line. And I think that if you're trying to stay within the boundaries, not hurt the profession, and to respect the FCC and what they're trying to accomplish in theory, it's a great place to be. That being said, like I have, our limit is 50 watts. You do need to abide by that. You can easily go to 100 watts. That's not in the best interest of GMRS, and that's not in what we believe in. I will tell you, I made a mistake one time and went above that and quickly corrected that. But yeah, there's so many different ways. I'm a huge Motorola guy, and it sounds great on GMRS. This is Johnny 260 here at WSTM 494.
Yeah, and I'll tell you that equal footing is part of what makes the network great, right? So whether it's a whooshy radio or if it's a BTEC radio, like I say, you can't really know what the flavor of those airwaves are coming off of that antenna. It's up to the user to tell you what radio they're transmitting from. I've never been able to really hear the difference in one radio to another. Like for instance, if Colt were to key up in his very next transmission on a BTEC radio, I wouldn't know that he moved from the BTEC from the Motorola to the BTEC. I wouldn't know that. I might hear a difference in the radio, but I wouldn't be able to say, oh, he went from a Motorola to a Kenwood, or he went from a Kenwood to a BTEC. I wouldn't be able to do that. You probably have better ears than I do.
Well, I was sitting kind of far from the speaker, so sometimes it's tough for me to hear.
And you've got that air conditioner blowing in your ear.
Right here.
That's
so
right.
I'm leaning back, trying to hear it a little bit.
When I sat in your seat last week, I had to turn the air off because I couldn't hear very well. But that was that's something we just can't know. But because we're all on pretty equal footing and nobody's trying to drive, at 100 watts or anything like that, and there's this misconception that more watts means more volume, and it doesn't necessarily play that way. It just when you drive a higher power, the chances of you causing interference on a distant repeater become a lot higher. The chance of you lighting up a repeater over the horizon that's on the same frequency and PL tones, because let's face it, how many repeater pairs do we have? 8. So the chances are that when you're transmitting on not only a North Georgia GMRS repeater. Let's look at Buckhead and Fort Mountain is an example. Those two machines are on the same frequency, and for a minute they were on the same tone. And so when you're smack dab in between them and you key up, you're actually keying up on both of them at the same time. Only one of them would come through the network, but they're both actually outputting transmitter power. And so that can be a form of interference. And the solution that we came up with for that was to just change the PL tone on one of them. And it's my understanding that that's not a perfect solution, that there are still people out there that are getting intermod from both repeaters on occasion, particularly with network traffic. So we'll look at that farther and see if there's a fix that we can come up with. But I don't know that it's more than a handful of people in a smallish area that it's affecting, particularly ISET 575.
It's a hard one too, because you've got two very well. Take a break. It's a hard one too because you've got two very well performing repeater sites.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've got Buckhead, which is really strong in that Buckhead Midtown area, and then you've got our flagship, which is it speaks for itself.
Right. It's actually the Fort Mountain machine. It's
Fort
on the
Mountain.
same.
Fort Mountain.
But
right.
I mean, that's got a decent footprint for what it is, and that's a really good performing machine, with a really nice coverage area. So it's probably not as big a coverage area as flagship, but I mean that's going to be tough to beat, really.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, it's just one of the challenges that we face.
Yeah. And you were talking too, Justin, about not knowing what the transmission is, not knowing what the device is. But if you're on the other end of that, you could probably tell a difference on your receiver capability of your commercial grade radio versus one of the low end radios.
In my truck I run an Anytone and a Kenwood radio, an 880, and I turn the Anytone off a lot. I just, the sound of the Kenwood, the quality of the audio coming through the speaker, and they're both running on the same external speakers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the sound quality from the Kenwood, at least for this old man's ears, is much better in terms of what I can hear and how I can hear over the road noise, over the radio if I've got it playing. To be able to hear the traffic on. So the Kenwood radio, and the other thing I love about my 880, the 880 is my favorite Kenwood radio. The other thing I love about that radio is it's just the most simple radio in the world. I've got a volume up down button, I've got a channel up down button on the face of the radio. On the microphone I've got a PTT button. That's it. That's all there is. Now, there are some other buttons. I don't ever use them. I'm not traveling enough that I care to switch out into some of the other zones that are programmed into that radio. So rarely am I moving to another zone, although there are several of them programmed. I'm just, it's the North Georgia GMRS region, and if I'm outside of the region, I'm pretty good chance I'm not even listening to GMRS. There's just not that much out there. There's nobody else out there like we are. There's spots here and there, but I mean it's not like being here in North Georgia. So, all right, well let's move on to Dallas. 64 Josh in Dallas. Josh, what Part 90 radios do you run?
Hey, thank you, Justin. Josh, Dallas 64 here. I use the Kenwood 8180 at the house. In one of my vehicles, I have a Kenwood 8180, and I also run Anytone 578s, which I like those because the versatility they can do just a little bit more as far as having the ability for more zones, more versatility with switching between bands. But other than that, I mean, I agree with you. The Kenwood 8180, the Kenwood sounds great. Other than that, I really don't have much else to add. So back to you in that control. Thank you.
Yeah, the 8180 is a very good radio too. And one of the cool things about the 8180, if you have the version that has the data port on the back, it's technically it's not really a data port. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's an interface port, right? It gives you access to a lot of the internal function of the radio, and so like the PTT lights that are in here, if you can show the widescreen again, Gary, the PTT light that currently shows red, but when we're in different states of operation, that PTT light will change to yellow or green, and for specific operations, the blue and the white light will come on, but those lights are all driven off of outputs off of the 8180. So we are able to take those outputs and run them through relays to make the lights light up the way that they do. So red means that we're transmitting. Yellow means that we're in standby, that the radio is monitoring, there's nothing going on. But we also get a green light whenever that radio is receiving. So if there's traffic coming to us over the air, the green light comes on. And if the speakers are muted, that's pretty handy to be able to know that well, hey, we should be hearing something. So the PTT light and the light tower gives us a lot of data that comes right off the back of the radio. So that's one of the features of Vanguard that make it special, is just having access to those kind of terminals. And all of that's made possible because of the input and output on the back of the 8180. Great radio. All right, let's move on to McDonough 22 Tim in Stockbridge. Tim started off just like I did with the BTEC GMRS V1. And that's really, I think that's a great radio for somebody to start off in for a couple reasons. One, you're not spending hundreds of dollars. It's a pretty inexpensive investment. Now the V1's not available anymore, but I think there's other radios that are in that price. In fact, I think you can buy a pair of Radiodity radios for $50 or $60. In any case, you can get into GMRS radio for a very, very small investment, and a lot of people do, and I think that's great. But like you said, once you're in it and you begin to learn that this is something that I want to be more involved in, you also learn that I need to spend a little bit more money on a better radio. So,
yeah.
But Tim was pretty happy with his HG from the easy chair in his living room for a very long time.
And I was going to say, especially if you're going to go into it as not a full-time hobby, but if you're going to get pretty serious about it, you want to be heard. You want other people to hear you. You want to be able to transmit well. You want to be able to receive well. And it can get frustrating if you have less than par equipment and you're doing, let me break. And you're doing your best, or what you think is your best. And all you need is maybe a different coaxial, or all you need is a different radio. And now, just the other week or the other month, I had a simplex with Dana from Dunwoody, and I was like, Dana, is that you? and I heard him. So
he doesn't look the same on the radio, does he?
He doesn't. Oh well.
Dana, he doesn't look the same on the radio.
Not exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it was great though. It was great to be able to hear more. And people who are calling me out. So,
well, very good. Let's go to Tim before I forget and move on. Skip right past him and go to Dana. We'll go to Tim next and see what Tim has to say about his Part 95 radios. And I know he's got at least one Part 90 radio. What else do you have, Tim?
Well, good afternoon, Justin and Net Control, everybody on the net there. Currently, I'm talking on my only Part 90 radio, which is a K8180 gifted to me a while back, a few months ago by Noonan 120. Was a very nice guy. He purchased a new radio from the Hobbit Communications and was nice enough to pass this one on to me. At the time, I was using a Part 95 Anytone as my base station, and so I swapped it out when I got to Kenwood. So the Kenwood is now my base station, and I still got the two BTEC V1s. I don't use them anymore a whole lot. I've got them, got one set in the bathroom, and I think the other one's in the drawer somewhere, but. Rarely use those anymore. I do have the Wouxun UV9G, which was long after a couple of years after I had been in here, maybe 3 years after I had been a member. I got the Wouxun UV9G because I wanted the super heterodyne receiver, and for me it was a high dollar radio at $169, and with a spare battery a little over $200. Let me break. But, I just happen to be in almost the perfect space. I'm somewhere between 8 and 10 miles away from the McDonough repeater and antenna down there in McDonough. And I just happen to be on, pretty much eye-to-eye level with that antenna. So I can pretty much talk on anything I want to here. And the 8180 here is set on low power, which is right at about 20 watts is what I'm pushing out right now. So, and I have the ability to set it up to high power, but I also have the ability to talk to a couple of ham channels on this same radio too. So I've got a couple of Bofang or Baofang, whatever handhelds that are ham only. They're not Part 90 or 95. They're just, I use them for the ham radio down here in Henry County only. And I was able to get by for a little over a year, I think it was. And when I joined up in 2018, I believe it was, there were not that many, Part 95 handheld radios out there. There was the V1 and maybe a couple of Radiolity and maybe a Redivis, I think, maybe. But, in that price range, I think the VTech was about $34 when I bought it. And I upgraded the antenna on it, of course. But anyway, don't have a lot much to add to that. I was just going to say that, let me break. Yeah, a little over a year ago, I was posting on another Facebook page that wasn't, North Georgia GMRS, of course. And those, let's just say illiterate, unintelligent, ignorant, I don't know exactly what to call them, but they come on there one day and said, Part 90 radios are illegal for GMRS, and we will not allow any discussion about that. If you come on here and try to talk about it or defend the 90 radio, you get kicked off of this site. So that was the last day I posted. I unfriended that site and got away from it because those are a bunch of idiots. They have not read the rules, or if they read them, they didn't understand what they read. So, there's a lot of ignorance out there about the radios and about the rules that people just don't seem to understand. But anyway, I love my Kenwood. I used to have the 880 in my work truck. I retired, and I traded that radio for one of my Anytones, I think it was, when I no longer needed it in my work truck. But that was my first Kenwood I bought from Gary. He programmed it and everything for me back in, I think it was 2019. And I used it for 3 or 4 years in my truck, and it did a good job. And you could tell it had been beat around a good bit. I think it probably come out of some city truck or dump truck or something like that. But that's kind of like the difference between, a Mack truck and a Toyota. Is Part 90 is your Mack truck and Part 95 is your Toyota. So anyway, I'll throw it back to net control. I think I've said enough.
Maybe it's because I've always been partial to Kenworth trucks, is why I'm also partial to Kenwood radios. Maybe. I don't know. But I spent a lot of time in a T600. I thought that was the coolest truck ever. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people think that the 379, the big old Peterbilt, is the cool truck. I don't like them because you can't see over the hood. But the T600, they call that the anteater. All right, so it's got that curved down aerodynamic hood, and you could see everything in front of you really, really well. And that narrow cab positions you close to the center of the vehicle, so you have great visibility out of the left and the right side. I love that truck. So many things about the T600 make it a great truck, to me anyway. And there's so many things about the Kenwood TK880 that make it a great radio. It's GMRS radio is simple, right? It's simple two-way voice radio. It's not DMR. It's not, well, at least not yet. It's not complicated. It's simple analog radio, and that's what the 880 is. It's a simple analog radio. Now it has some features that are available in the menu, and you dig deep into it, you can activate some pretty cool stuff. Like, for instance, there's a way to tie that into your vehicle and make it blow your horn as a notification. So if someone's trying to reach you, they can DTMF tone over the radio and activate your radio so that the horn will blow. So if you're a service technician and you're outside of the truck and someone's trying to reach you, they can get your attention and get you to answer the radio.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody that uses that, but that is something that can be done on a Kenwood radio. And we've kicked around times on and off about activating that on our railroad vehicles, because all of our well, not all of our railroad trucks use Kenwood. They use a mix of Kenwood and Harris and Motorola and ICOM and you name it. They're all in the trucks, but that's something that many of those radios are capable of doing, and the Kenwood's capable of it too. So maybe not the 880, maybe it is. I don't know for sure, but in any case, there's a lot of functionality that these radios have that we just don't have any real use for in GMRS radio. So, but when you can get a hold of a used Kenwood radio for $100-ish, now they've gone up. They're not as plentiful as they were a few years ago. But very often we could buy the 880 for $100, 130 or 140 for the H. A little bit more for the 8180. Let me break. All those radios have gone up in price. They're just more scarce now. They're harder to find. But the good news is if you can't find a good used radio that you would like to be able to run, you can buy a brand new radio from Hobbit Communications for about what you're going to spend on a consumer grade radio. So there again, we go right back to Hobbit Communications for these radios. It's a great resource that we have here at North Georgia GMRS. And one of the cool things about a radio that you buy from Hobbit Communications is it comes pre-programmed with all of the North Georgia GMRS repeaters, but it also is programmed for regional repeaters around us in different zones, and it has a DIY zone. So if you're traveling and you want to be able to access repeaters in the Midwest GMRS network, or if you want to be able to access repeaters in South Carolina or in Florida or any region that you want, if you know the frequency of the repeater and its PL tone, you can manually enter the PL tone for that frequency pair, for that repeater pair, and be able to operate while you're in that area on that repeater. When you power the radio off, that gets wiped out and reset back to its defaults. But it's simple enough to program, and if you're only traveling in that area temporarily, it's pretty easy to do, when you're there. So I think that's a great feature that makes the radio pretty much available for use no matter where you might be traveling with the radio. And that's something that's available with the code plug that comes with your radio when you buy from Hobbit Communications. So,
and don't you think too, Justin, it's a sign of when you don't see those radios available on eBay and for sale, the used ones, that's a sign of how good they are.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it really is.
I mean, you can still find them. They're out there, but they cost a little bit more.
Yeah.
And the quality of the radio, sometimes what's out there now is, there was a time when Gary would buy a pallet of radios. He'd buy, 30 or 40 radios in a batch, and he would go through, and out of those 30 or 40 radios, the majority of them were just fine.
Yeah.
But there may be one radio that has no audio output and another radio that has no transmit. And he would go through those two radios and pull parts out of one to make one good one out of two bad ones. Faceplate might be damaged on one, or the display might be damaged. Well, if a radio that has no drive, no output power, has a good display, we can pull the display off of that one and make the other one work. So Gary did a lot of that kind of refurb and bringing those radios back to life. But it's labor intensive, right? So you go through and you find all these flaws in the radios, and then you find another radio that has the parts that you need. It's time consuming, and then to put that radio on the service monitor and make sure it's going to calibrate and be tunable properly. Let me break. So that it operates within specification is also time consuming, and so when you add all the labor into these radios, and then you're going to sell these radios for $100 or $150, you're giving your time away. All right. With new radios, Gary doesn't have to. They don't have to go into the service monitor. He doesn't have to diagnose them or do any parts work with them. He just plugs it into the laptop and uploads code plug. It's pretty much all that has to happen. Now, I think he does put it on the service monitor because he just can't help himself. But he puts out a radio that is as plug and play as it can be for our network, and Now the challenge here is that these new radios that Gary offers, you can't buy the software and program it yourself. It's not like it used to be, where that software was just out there and you could get it and you could get the keys and you could just run with it. So that's one challenge. If you're going to have to program the radio, if you're going to change the program in the radio, you'll have to bring it to Gary or an authorized dealer to have that done, and that's not free.
But that's a reflection of the quality of the radio too.
Yeah, Kenwood doesn't want just anybody in there poking around at it.
Right.
And so they want that to be contained and controlled by their dealer network.
Yeah, and you talk about Hobbit, how neat is it that you can just jump in your car and go see Gary?
Right.
Right? I mean,
with an appointment.
Go jump in your car and go see Icon, right? It doesn't happen.
Right.
But, to have I call him a subject matter expert, to have that drivable in our GMRS family to get there, that's a really cool asset.
It is, and it's right here within our backyard. Now, Noonan can be a bit of a drive for some of us, but I guess if Noonan is too far away, then just go hang out at Biggins on August 16th.
Yeah. Noonan's downhill, though, right?
Well,
so it's downhill from here.
It is, yeah.
And Biggins is uphill from here. So you split the difference and get a radio and have barbecue. I mean,
I think
we always go to food, right? It's just a habit in Vanguard. We always go to food.
We always, and we just ate before we came out.
We did.
So I don't know why.
It's just a radio thing.
Yeah, I think it is a radio thing. All right, well, let's keep on keeping on. I'll tell you what, before we do, I want to check in with Blue Ridge 63 and see if we have any comments from YouTube that he'd like to bring attention to. Free Salad, are you there?
I am here. This is WRWM344 Blue Ridge 63. There's a lot of good discussion in the YouTube channel happening, especially over the last 10, 15 minutes or so, with regards to some requests about some specific radios, some consumer grade, some commercial grade, Port 90, Port 95 radios. And that's one of the things I love about the YouTube chat. You also see this over on our group's Facebook page, is members helping members out with radios that they've got experience with, some that they've liked, some maybe that they haven't liked so much, haven't had good luck with, and sharing some of that expertise and experience with different rigs. Because you get into some of those commercial grade radios, and I love a Kenwood, I love an Anytone, but they're not inexpensive. You got to think about that purchase long and hard before you make it, and you hear from others who have run that rig in the past. And there's something to be said for a personal review or a recommendation. So there's some of that happening right now. There's discussion about the Wouxun 935G and the Anytone 878, the NX 1300 line from Kenwood that can do GMRS and 70 centimeter on the ham band. A little bit of discussion about Kenwood mobiles. So no questions per se to bring to the group, but if you're listening and you're curious about a particular radio that you might have your eye on, YouTube chat might be a good place to jump over right now and during the course of the net, maybe get some questions answered.
Very good stuff. And I always find it interesting to see what's going on in the chat. I always, on Friday, I run the playback back, and more than anything, I just want to see what comments are in the chat. I find it difficult to watch the entire program, particularly because I'm multitasking, and there's this one guy that just won't shut up the whole time the net is on, and I get tired of hearing him. So hopefully that's not true for everyone, but it is for me. Do you ever go back and watch the playback?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
But usually when I play back anything, if it's an ebook or podcast, I listen to it at like 1.25x or 1.5x speed.
I should try that. Yeah.
And so that way, if it's an hour, it's not taking up a whole hour of my time. Maybe it's only 40 minutes or 30 minutes if I do it fast enough.
That's like a great pro tip. For those of you that don't catch us live and catch the replay, because based on what we see in our statistics, we know that there's a certain amount of that happens. That's a great idea. Just increase the playback speed, and then you're not investing as much time as we are.
And it's neat to go back and look at that chat too. I mean, you see our friends from New York, you see our friends from Pennsylvania. It's just really cool. We usually have a surprise out of state guest just about every Thursday night net. And that, plus you can go back, to watch the YouTube stream, because we cover a lot, and we're just spitting out model numbers right and left. It's really handy to go back to YouTube and, okay, what radio were they talking about? What's Bobby got up there? You go back and watch that YouTube replay and hit the like button when you're listening to it, and you can get some good information.
Yeah, and that's whatever the topic might be. We've talked about a number of various things. I was engaged in a conversation about grounding on Facebook today. I don't remember which Facebook page it was, but the question was basically around the lines of, I'm using an HT, I've got a J-pole antenna outside. Should I be worried about grounding? And I think he said he had like 100 feet of LMR 400. And he had an SWR of 1.1 or something very, very good. So the numbers looked really impressive. Probably there was significant loss in 100 feet of LMR 400, but he was satisfied with the performance of his radio. His only concern was grounding. Should I ground a system like this? How do you ground an HT? But, the point that I made was I would never recommend to anyone other than you should ground it. And let me break. You should install your grounding, as soon as the cable enters the house, and run it to the shortest path possible to a ground rod, and put a polyphaser in there. And then, that's the bare minimum. But that's going to at least divert most of the energy that might come in your home if your system ever takes a strike. So that's the bare minimum. But ultimately, should you ground? Yes. Does everybody ground their system? That little radio that's set up out there at Studio B on that temporary mast in that temporary wooden shelf inside the structure, it's just there so I can monitor while I'm out there working. Mostly I hear Todd talking about me. 1402's always got interesting comments about something I've said or done. But in any case, that system's as temporary as it can be, and it's not grounded. If we were occupying that building, if it were a finished structure, I would absolutely want that to be grounded. Yeah. Once that building is to the place where we're using it for studio applications, I don't want to take the chance that we take lightning through an antenna and then have a fire. I know one of our members has experienced that, and I hope no one else ever does. Yeah. So, we're going to take every precaution we can to make sure that we grounded properly and thoroughly in that building when it nears completion. So,
to go back to your comment about having a conversation about grounding. Our Facebook site is a good place to put a question.
Yes.
I mean, there is a knowledge base of members of our group. You're going to get an answer, and it's going to be a smart answer. It's not going to be a put you down answer. Mm-hmm. You're going to get a smart answer from multiple folks as to a question you might have. Yeah. So I would encourage if you're new, or even if you're not, and you've got a question, tee that up on the Facebook, and you will get an answer.
Yeah, and one of the things I find most remarkable about the North Georgia GMRS Facebook page is the fact that there's almost no moderation done. Very rarely does a comment or a post get removed. Very rarely do we... Now, there are posts that get made that we don't approve. Mm-hmm. But very rarely do we have to go in and redirect a conversation or adjust things or, so it's really nice to have a group of participants that really just take care of the page themselves. Yeah. And
it says a lot about the group.
The quality of the individuals engaged in that. So, yeah, it's good stuff. Let's continue on. I think next on our list we have Chattanooga 248 Matthew in Old Fort. Matt, did you have any comments for tonight's net?
Yes, sir. In regards to the Part 90 radios, this radio is allegedly a Kenwood 790H and an 890H with a single control head, but the benefit of the H part is you can turn the 890 down to low power so it's not capable of transmitting more than 50 watts, and it's got such a huge heat sink it never gets hot, and I'm in this whole setup for less than $200. Simple to program also.
Yeah, that is a nice benefit of some of these commercial radios too. Is, you know, like the 880 that I have, it does get hot. I generally don't talk on a radio near as much as I do, you know, like on the net. But once upon a time, these nets were driven off of. We had an 8360 and an 880H that we would alternate. So we would start to show off on the 8360, and when it started getting warm, we see the fan kick into high speed, then we would switch to the 880 and then sometimes switch back, just to be able to make it through the course of the show, because our show ran so long and my transmit time is so long that we actually require a timeout timer light in the studio so I know when to shut up for a minute. But that is a great suggestion. When you use a commercial radio and you buy one that's capable of more than 50 watts, you can turn it down. And when you do that, you're using that radio in a fashion that will just extend its life that much more. All right, you're not stressing the radio, you're not working it very hard. It's very comfortable doing what you're asking it to do. On the other hand, if you are running a radio and you feel like it's getting hot, if it's too hot to put your hands on it, that's really too hot. I recommend using some sort of an external fan. And getting some air across that heat sink so that that radio has a better chance of cooling itself and maintaining, because heat kills radios. That's just not good for the radio at all to let it get hot like that and keep it there. But if you can put a fan on that, and sometimes you can just wire in a 12-volt computer case fan. You can wire that up directly, but they tend to be noisy. You can find fan controllers. I'd found a set of fan controllers that had a thermocouple on them that you could attach to the heatsink. So as the radio got hotter, the fan would run faster, and it would just variable speed up until the point where, okay, it's hot enough that the fan's running at full voltage, and now it's loud, so let's maybe switch to another radio. We would actually do that during the net back when we were inside of Studio B. So great point. That's a great suggestion. Most of the radios that we're looking at from Kenwood are 40-watt radios, so we're not really looking at turning them down. But honestly, if you can hit the repeater cleanly at 20 watts as opposed to 40, then you should. For that reason, let your radio take it easy and get in there and perform longer with less heat, and that is good for the longevity of the radio. That's the one thing that's most destructive to radios. Now, these newer Kenwoods, when the radio gets hot, they automatically throttle down on their output power. So you'll get to a place where maybe the radio is not performing at its rated power because it's hot. It'll still transmit, but it may not be transmitting at full power. So SWR can have a big impact on how fast the radio gets hot. The lower your SWR numbers, the better it is for the radio. If you can get away, if you can build an antenna system that has a 1.1 or a 1.2 to 1, that's great. If you're at 1.5 to 1, you want to be concerned about how long you're transmitting at any given time. And if you're 1.8 or 1.9 to 1, you need to keep your transmission short. Your radio will be okay if you don't drive it too hard, but if you can find a way to get those SWR numbers down, that will help your radio out a lot. So good stuff, Matthew. Thank you for that. Next we have Chattanooga 84 Jim in Hickson. Jim, do you have any comments for the net tonight?
Well, you guys are doing a great job. WRKK 629 Chattanooga 84. I appreciate y'all bringing up this topic. I mean, you guys have covered all of it, but I was just wondering, am I wrong in thinking that there's an Anytone radio that's Part 95, but also does amateur band?
Which one is it? Is it the 578,
578
Pro? That's a Part 90 radio?
But it doesn't do. It will do one or the other. It will not do both simultaneous. There's a sequence of buttons that puts it in GMRS mode or puts it in amateur mode.
Okay. I think the Pro model, now the Plus is the not Part 90 radio.
Right.
I think the Pro is the one that is Part 90.
I think so.
And I think that one can be programmed for amateur and GMRS. And as a Part 90 radio, it's legal on GMRS. So that one, that's what's in my truck. And so I can just switch from zone to zone to zone, and I can be in whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now obviously I can't be in 2 meter and GMRS at the same time. It's pretty much one or the other. But as I switch from zone to zone, I've got some private repeaters. I've got some commercial stuff. I've got some GMRS stuff in there. I mean, that radio's got the whole gamut. It's a tri-band radio, so it's got a lot of capabilities within it. But it's a particular code plug that we use to get it into that mode. And but it's capable, and because it's a Pro, it's a Part 90 radio, and that makes it legal on GMRS. So that's one thing that's nice about a Part 90 radio is you can program your Part 90 for 440 repeaters, and have both GMRS and amateur in one radio. Kenwood radios sometimes are a little limited in their frequency capabilities, but most Part 90 radios you can program for both amateur and GMRS operations. Crossbanding is not allowed. You can't make a crossband patch out of that. But there's really no reason to do that anyway. It's pretty much a one or the other world. We don't really have any interest in amateur activities on GMRS and vice versa. So, but I think that's the radio you're thinking of, Jim.
Okay, yeah, I kind of call it the unicorn. I knew there was one out there. There may be more. I'm not really sure. It might be an idea to have there. If there's already one on the website, I don't know about it. Mind if there was a list of radios that the new people know to get or can, because that's the biggest question everybody asks is not so much to the Part 90 and 95 is, what kind of radio do I need to get? That's the number one question I hear new people ask. All right, guys, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, that brings up an interesting topic, and probably this is the time to let loose one of the best secrets that North Georgia GMRS has with regard to Hobbit Communications. And Rogers, why don't you just go ahead and open up that bag?
Well, I was just asking. I was like, doesn't Gary in the Hobbit carry the Anytone right now?
Yes. So Gary is an authorized Anytone radio dealer, so you can buy your Anytone radio or your Kenwood radio from Hobbit Communications. Something I'd kind of forgotten about, but we did talk about that recently, that he's now authorized. So he's authorized with Comet antenna. I don't even remember all of the antennas that he carries, but it's several brands.
I got my comment from Hobbit.
Yeah. So there's some good options there. Lots of accessories, lots of various parts and knickknacks and paddywhacks and mag mounts and all kinds of mounting options. Let me break. Wish I had a cough switch for the video. Oh, I do. I just don't know how to use it. We'll have to figure something out. I can blank out my camera for a moment while I cough. But in any case, yeah, Hobbit Communications is a great source for radio equipment. Now, the Anytones are not listed on the website. And I think it's just going to be the Anytone Pro that he carries. But if you're interested in an Anytone, the best way to find out what's in stock and what's available and what's coming up soon would be to send an email to gary@nggmrs.org. He probably has a Hobbit Communications email address too. I don't know. But just send it to the .org. Gary@nggmrs.org. And ask him whatever your question might be in terms of radio availability. Do you carry this? Do you have that? Hopefully, he'll get swamped with emails this week, because I would love to hear him tell me all about that. So, good stuff. Thanks, Jim. Next, we have Atlanta 557 Ed in Kennesaw. Ed, do you have any comments about Part 90, Part 95 radios tonight?
Well, good evening, everyone. Yes, I do. A couple of things, actually. I am also a Kenwood fanboy. I'm looking at about 8 or 9 Part 90 Kenwood radios that I love, from 860Gs to 880s to 8160s. Nothing newer than that in my shack right now. But I've also grown up using Part 95 radios, and they work well for a while, and then you end up wanting more. Let me break. So then that's when you go to Part 90 radios, and I've got some ICOMs, got some Kenwoods, but Kenwood is my favorite, just ease of programming. And one other comment that I wanted to make, because I know we've been talking about people, especially new folks, wanting to know whether their radio is legal or not to use on the network. And I just want to point out the link off of our nggmrs.org website. Down at the bottom, there is, under FAQs, there is a link that says, how do I check my radio to see if it's Part 90 certified? And you can go there and just type in the number from the back of your radio, and it will check the FCC site, and it will tell you whether it's legit to use or not. So I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that that was there. Back to you, Net Control.
I'd forgotten all about that, but you're right. There is a link on our webpage. Gary and Rogers are pulling that up now. And if you're going to go check for whether or not your radio is Port 95, definitely use the link. There is an imposter site out there. And you're on the imposter site because it doesn't end in .gov. It ends in .so or something like that.
What is NGGMRS?
No. For the FCC, for checking your radio's validity or not. And so basically, whatever model number you plug into that thing, it comes back and says, "Oh yeah, it's Part 95." So to avoid falling into that trap of getting on the imposter site, if you use the link from the North Georgia GMRS website, that will get you to the correct FCC website that basically shows you the type acceptance for whatever radio FCC ID number that you plug in to that site. So Part 90 or Part 95, either way, makes it a legal radio to use on the North Georgia GMRS network. So great observation. And I think that while we've got Ed, I want to go ahead and discuss a little bit about this Saturday afternoon radio programming party that he's going to have. When's the next one coming up?
Well, if you're referring to the Meshtastic workshop that we're trying to set up, we're going to try to do that in September. I put a notice out there on the webpage, and we've got 32 folks that have indicated that they're interested. So we just met today to start planning that, and we're looking at potentially September 20th, but more information will be coming out. But it's a way for anybody that's new to Meshtastic, if they're interested in knowing what they need to do or getting started, it's going to be an introduction to it and a workshop where we'll actually sit with you and help you program it.
Well, that's very good information, but it's not the question I asked. But in any case, yeah, Ed is going to host a workshop for Meshtastic coming up soon. He is looking at a place that he can rent that will be big enough to accommodate a fairly large group. So I'll be looking for more information on that, and we'll provide that as the details get worked out. But no, Ed, I was asking about your Meet and Geek, where you help people program their radios. What variety of radios are you able to program on the fly like that?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. You threw me off when you said Saturday. The Meet and Geeks are actually on Tuesdays, and it's the second Tuesday of every month. And just let me know what radio you have. I have about 12 or 13 different programming cables: Kenwood, Midland, Radioddity, Lexan, probably a couple more that I have, along with software. Those are the main ones. But if someone has a different one, and maybe they have the software or they have the cable but they don't know what to do with it, we can certainly bring it, have it brought out, and we'll work with you. Let me break. What we do is we have portable power in the back of the SUV. We have antenna for GMRS. We'll have, hopefully, the programming cable. Either I already have it or you supply it. And all you need to do is bring your radio and bring your issue. And between the folks that are there in the luncheon, we should have the expertise to help you get going and fix whatever issue or programming problem you might have.
Well, that's pretty cool. So you got, what, 3 or 4 different laptops. You got one that runs DOS, and you got one that's probably an XP machine, and you might have Windows 95 in the mix somewhere. Let's see, did we ever have any programming software that was built around Vista? I hope not.
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I just do Windows 11. I think.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other problem is I've got, I don't have any. Well, I still have one Windows 10 machine, and that's the one down there at that end of the table. We don't program radios on that machine, so everything else that I've got here now is Windows 11, so including my laptop. And so I pulled out my Kenwood programming cable the other day and my Kenwood disk, and realized my laptop doesn't have a CD-ROM drive in it anymore. So I don't know what to do with that disk. Oh, you can download the software. That's out there. That's not hard to find, but I don't have the key. So, man, all this stuff used to be so old hat. But I'm also understanding that some of the software won't run on Windows 11, so you have to have an older machine to be able to run various KP programs from Kenwood. I don't know if my programming software for the 880, for the 8180, or for the 8360, I don't know if any of that will run on a Windows 11 machine. Ed, do you know?
Some will, most won't, or a lot of them won't. But yes, to answer your question, I've got a DOS box. It's not I wish it was a laptop. It's a desktop. But we've got some older machines. I've got some XPs. I am keeping a Windows 10 machine. It's not going to be connected to the internet, but we'll run those. And one other point, since we're talking about that, is when you buy cables, there's 2 different kinds of cables that you can get, and you want to make sure you get the right one. Let me break. There's one set of cables that use the prolific chip as part of the cable, and those are sensitive to the versions of Windows that you have and will not work on certain versions, or may require you to load specialized drivers. But there's another kind of cable that has an FTDI, Foxtrot, Tango, India, Papa, Delta Papa, FTDI, whatever it is. Anyway, FTDI, you want that chip because that one is more generic. Sorry about that, my brain's not functioning.
The Foxtrot Tango Delta India. Did I get it right?
That sounds about right.
I think that's what it was.
That's
but
it.
but yeah, the FTDI chip is that's one thing I learned on a railroad. You know, we used a number of USB to serial adapters for programming devices on the railroad. Ran into the same issues, but some devices can be programmed pretty easily through that USB to serial adapter, and some of them you could read the code plug, you could read the config file, but you couldn't write a new one, and it was because of that prolific chip, and it was dependent on certain versions of the OS build. So if you had a given version of the build, you're good to go. But if you run Windows Update and get the latest KPs every time they come out, that chip was different every time you tried to use it. Every time you tried to use that cable, it might work, it might not. That's the experience that I had on a railroad, and then coming into programming radios on an amateur level, it's much the same. So, well, it sounds to me like what I need to do is drop off a box full of Kenwood radios, and have you go through and update the code plugs on them for me, so that I can get all these fancy new repeaters in them. And speaking of which, I think I need to have a conversation with you with regard to some amateur repeaters that we need to get added in to that standard code plug. So if the weekend gets by and you and I don't have a phone call, you should remind me to call you. I think that works, right? You remind me to call you. That's right. Yeah. So Ed, we need to have a conversation, and we'll have to do that sometime whenever it's convenient, coming up here soon. Did you have anything you wanted to follow up on?
No, sir. I think I've used my nickel's worth of time tonight.
All right, very good. Well, let's continue on. We have, looks like just a couple more here that are in with us. We'll take late check-ins in just a few minutes. We have Atlanta 785 Rick in Marietta. Rick, did you have any comments for tonight's net? Rick might be in and out, and we just didn't hear it. And then again, he might just not be listening at all.
We hit that 9:15 time.
Bedtime.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're going to go ahead and show Rick as in and out, and we're going to continue on. Next on the roster, we have Gainesville 43, David in Winder. David, do you have any questions or comments for tonight's net?
Did we skip Dana?
All right, nothing heard from Gainesville 43. We're going to go ahead and show David as in and out. And at this time, I'm going to acknowledge a handful of YouTube check-ins. We've got Chattanooga 181 Joseph in Cleveland is in. Well, he's a YouTube check-in, so he's in and out by default. We also have Atlanta 379 Scott in Sandy Creek, New York. And also on YouTube, we have WRJB 675 Patrick from Dunwoody is checking us out for the first time. Glad to have you along tonight. And we have Atlanta 306 George in Loganville is checking in on YouTube. So that'll bring us to the end of the roster. Let's go ahead and take one round of late check-ins or any questions or comments. Oh, Dana.
I think we may have missed the Master of Simplex.
Dana actually checked in and out.
Okay.
I did want to call on Dana. Let's do that before we take check-ins. Let's see if the wizard high atop Mount Olympus will grace us with a comment tonight. Dana, are you there? All right. Well, Dana is obviously too busy to participate in tonight's net. He's probably in the middle of show prep and planning for tomorrow night's activities. So with that in mind, if you've got it handy, let's go ahead and put that image up there. We don't have to talk to him to talk about him. And but we wanted to bring the latest addition to the collection of photos that we have for Dana. This is one of those rare opportunities where we get to see him with his eyes open. So this is the Atlanta 250 bobblehead. Can we buy these at the North Georgia GMRS store?
I think we might need to talk to Jen Atlanta 255 about that.
Right.
She may be able to 3D print a few of these. Who knows?
Yeah, I think I'd like to have one to put on a shelf somewhere. That way I can just always have Dana on the shelf. But yeah, that's Dana, and that's also Jonathan, our Friday Night at 9 crew. So that's cool stuff. That's kind of neat image there. And I was kind of hoping Dana would come on so I could put that up while he was talking. But if he's not going to talk to us, we'll just put it up anyway and talk about him. But Dana is a fabulous resource for me. Tremendous amount of work that Dana has taken off of my plate to make things happen behind the scenes. Can't thank him enough for all of the things that he puts his hands in. And we are going to ask him very soon to do a whole lot more. So that's what happens when you're a retiree with North Georgia GMRS. I'll find work for you to do. I've got plenty of it, and I'd like to share it. So if that's something you think interests you, let me know. I'm sure I can find a way to get you plugged in. All right, so that is the end of our roster. So we're going to go ahead and, as promised, we'll take some late check-ins and any questions or comments. If you came across the net and decided that you wanted to change your check-in and out to a check-in so that you could ask a question or make a comment, now's your chance to do that. And anybody that hasn't had a chance to check in, we'd love to hear from you. And this will be last call for YouTube check-ins as well. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to hear your name called out, go ahead and give us a YouTube check-in here in the next couple of minutes, and we'll see if we can get you added to the log. Net Control standing by.
Atlanta 849, a late comment, check-in.
Net Control, Go 33, WRTS 814. Late check-in, missed most of the net, but it sounded like it was a good one. Thanks again, you guys.
This is Chattanooga 97, WRUZ 979, checking in and out.
This is WRMG 358, Dallas 290, Isaac and Dallas, checking in and out. Great net.
This is Chattanooga 248, WSFT 846. Got one more late comment when you get around to them.
All right, Net Control is going to go ahead and acknowledge Atlanta 849 Pamela with a comment, and also acknowledge Chattanooga 248 Matthew with a comment. And we have late check-ins from Chattanooga 97 Aaron in Cleveland, Toccoa 33 Matthew in Pickens. We've got you marked as in, and Dallas 290 Isaac in Dallas. Great to hear from you guys tonight. Let me go ahead. Pamela, I'm gonna hold off on the comments, and I'm gonna go to Toccoa 33 with his check-in for tonight. Sometimes he's on the road, so I want to grab him while he's in range. Toccoa 33, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for getting back to me. I probably should have said in and out so you can wrap things up, but I missed most of it, so I'll have to go back and check the YouTube channel. But yeah, just about 3 hours behind tonight, but headed home. Home is a good thing. That's it, guys. I appreciate you doing what you do, and we'll catch up with you later. WRTS 814 Toccoa 33.
All right, good stuff, Matthew. Be careful on the road, and especially running late like this. Sometimes we get anxious when the hour gets late. So just be careful, and you can definitely catch all of this tomorrow on YouTube, and be able to get back into things. You know, if there was any one thing that I would recommend that anybody go back and watch, it would be Julie's Tips. All right, so in the segment of Julie's Tips, we cover the meat of what tonight's discussion was about, and I think that will take you most of the way through the topic and show you where we stand. There's even a segment within her tips that talks about Part 95 rules, and the comment was lifted right from the Part 95 rules in Part 95.1761 subpart C, and it talks about, you know, how no GMRS transmitter will be certified for use in a GMRS if it is equipped with a frequency capability not listed in 95.1763. And then it says, unless, and this is the key part, this is what most people miss, unless such transmitter is also certified for use in another radio service like Part 90, for which the frequency is authorized and for which certification is also required, as Part 90 radios are. So that is the part of the rule that tells us that Part 90 radios are legal to use in Part 95 service. So if you have any questions or you have any concerns, go look it up, do some research yourself, make yourself informed to the point where you're comfortable in having a conversation about your Part 90 radio. So that if any point along the way somebody says, "Hey, you can't do that," well, yeah, you can, and this is where it says that you can. But also, you know, when you consider the history that surrounds Part 95 radio and the GMRS rules, Part 90 radios have always been a significant element of Part 95 radio communications. So good stuff. Thanks, Matt. And with that, we'll move on to comments. We have Atlanta 849 Pamela in Duluth. Pamela, do you have questions or comments tonight?
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate y'all having the late check-in and comments. First off, I have to say I want to thank Julie and Mike with the relay for getting our check-in because of the storm here, and I got the YouTube stream on for the first time. Had no clue what to do, so every time I touched something, it didn't go where I wanted, so I appreciate them by getting me on. Let me break. We were talking about the different radios, and we've gone through our share, and most of them you have mentioned. We had the BTEC first, the Midland second, and landed on the Wushin G1000 Plus, which is the baby in my car, and has been a great, great radio for me. And now I have graduated to the Anytone V578 Pro in my little ladies radio lounge, and have really enjoyed it. And I want to let you know it's been a great net. I really enjoyed watching it on YouTube. Let me break. And Matthew, Toccoa 33, don't mind yielding to you, and I think I was first contact.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was, but that was unreadable. But we did hear your comments, Pamela. And I got your email just minutes before we went on the air, so I wasn't able to really add much of that to the announcements. But stay tuned, all right? We may have some changes coming to the Ladies Net. I think we'll plan on holding the Ladies Net just as it has been. That's going to be the first Monday. Is that right? First Monday of the month? I believe that's correct. Pamela, can you tell me when the next Ladies Net's going to be?
Yes, sir, Justin. That would be Monday, August the 4th at 8 o'clock. And if anybody's available for that because they can't be there later, that's not a problem after 7:30.
All right. So we're going to have some changes in the ladies' roundtable, but Pamela's going to host it this week, it is kind of this week. It'll be next week technically, but Pamela's going to host it this time around, and for the long term, we are going to be making some changes with the ladies' roundtable net. I think these are going to be good changes, ultimately. So I'm excited about how this is all going to shape up, and all of the participants that are going to be involved in what's the next chapter is. So we have some good stuff on the horizon, and this just is another example of the growth of the network and of the individuals within it. So stick around for that, and good stuff. And great choice of radios, especially that Anytone. I think that's a great radio. And one of the things I like the most about that radio is that it has such a broad capability. So that radio can be programmed for things well beyond North Georgia GMRS, and it really enhances the value of the radio. So it makes buying that radio, it almost makes it half price, because you don't have to buy a second radio to do the other bands. It's a tri-band radio, so when you consider that, it really is a great value. And you can now buy your Anytone radios from Hobbit Communications. So good stuff. So Dana says that he checked out early on YouTube. He didn't have any more time for the knuckleheads on the air tonight. So all right, I see how you are, Dana. Well, you missed the bobblehead presentation on the air tonight. So I guess now you're just going to have to fire up YouTube and watch the whole thing. You'll never get to sleep now. Well, let's check in with Chattanooga 248. Matthew has a comment for tonight before we close the net. Matthew, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to clarify that I wasn't encouraging using radios that were capable of more than 50 watts on the network. Those 890Hs, when programmed correctly, are not capable of exceeding 50. This one here is a NX820. I think it's 45 watt, and it does fine also, but it gets hotter a lot quicker than those other ones. And also, a lot of even these, I think, the Kenwoods are capable of a operator selectable tone. I think it's up to 16 of them. So if you put the repeater pairs in there with a OST function and you're traveling, you can just key in the tone for whatever repeater you're trying to hit, and it'll do it. And that's all I had. I appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening.
Very good stuff. And yeah, I didn't really take it that way, Matthew. I appreciate the idea of taking a 100-watt radio and derating it, running it at a lower power so that it can run cooler. So that is, and that's actually something we do pretty regularly on the radio, on the railroad. We've got, all of our data radio base stations are 100-watt radios. And we've got most of them running between 35 and 50 watts. And same with our mobile wayside communications radios. These are going to be the radios that are at control points with signals and switches for train movements. These are 50-watt radios, and rarely do we run them over 30 watts. Even in situations where we have marginal coverage, more power doesn't really seem to help. It's really typically about more elevation in the antenna and better components. So we upgrade antennas sometimes, and we upgrade the coax. So sometimes we use hardline, sometimes we use LMR 600. It just depends on what we're trying to achieve at that particular station. But that old 900 megahertz data radio system is rapidly being retired. So all of that is being converted to 220 megahertz with just a handful of 900s to remain on the air as the FCC licensing has changed for us. So that's my current project with the railroad, is getting off of the 900. We have until September 14th to get the rest of the sites off of 900. A couple hundred left of them to do, so probably won't make it. That's the way it is. All right, so what do you think, guys? Did you have anything you want to add at this point?
For me, I think it was the old saying, buy once, cry once. So, you're looking at Part 90, you're looking at, better quality radios, and, you'll thank yourself, your future self will thank you for doing that.
I think that's true. And I think when you talk to anybody with Kenwood or Motorola or ICOM radios, some Harris radios, those are crazy expensive sometimes. But people that are carrying those radios around, they're not worried about warranty exchange on the radio. They're not worried about longevity of the radio. These are radios that are going to serve literally for a lifetime. And so buy once, cry once is valid here, because you might spend a little bit more money. And let's face it, if you're talking about a Kenwood mobile radio versus a Wouxun mobile radio, spending more money is like $30 more. It's not that much, all right? But you're buying a commercial grade, high quality, high performance radio. Let me break. Instead of buying a consumer grade radio. And there's a difference, both in performance and in quality. And so when you can buy the pro level stuff at the retail level consumer price, I think you should buy pro level. Your handicap is programming, right? So you can program your own Whooshy radio. You can do that yourself. You can't program the Kenwood radio yourself. The older ones you can, but the Hobbit Communications radio is not something that you can just plug your laptop into it and upgrade the code plug. That's the downside. But if you're not one that tinkers with the code plug, I'm not one who does. I know how, and I can do it. Well, I used to be able to do it, but I don't have a laptop. I need a Windows. I guess probably not XP. Yeah, probably an XP Windows laptop.
It'd be hard to find one of those.
Buy one at the Hamfest.
Yeah.
I'll bet there'll
probably
be.
So.
Yeah, but do I want to? I don't think I want to. So, for those that are out there that are hoarding those old computers, for that purpose, Ed talked about having a Windows 10 machine that he's just going to unplug it from the network. If you do that, there's really no way for that computer to become infected, right? If you're going to, all right, so you need to download maybe a new CPS for that computer, and it's not on the network. Well, you can use your Windows 11 machine, download the file, sneakernet it with a thumb drive from the 11 machine to the 10 machine, and it never has to see the network, not even to download the latest CPS. So that's reasonable to do if you want to collect the computers. I just don't want to do that. I want to be able to clean break from. I'm not smart enough to be able to remember how to do this stuff in the old machines. So I think that's where we're at with all of this. So great discussion. I hope all of you were able to take something from this. Feel free to dig through the Part 95 rules. I think the more time you spend reading through those rules, the more you'll learn. Because, at least for me, the first time I read through the rules, I miss so much of what's there. And one thing you have to be able to know when you're dealing with government regulations, what's not said sometimes is as important or more important than what is said. So if it's not mentioned, it's not prohibited. It doesn't mean it's not allowed. Maybe it's not allowed, but you have to be able to understand not only what the letter of the rule is, but what the spirit and the intent of the rule is. So understanding the time, the history of when the rule was written, we talk about linking in Part 95 rules. And let me break. One of the questions that keep coming up, they say that the FCC says that you're not allowed to use a telephone network or any network. Well, or any network is not a part of the Part 95 rules. That is an opinion that was added, but that's not a ratified rule, and that's not a rule that went through the change process that rules are supposed to go through. That's an opinion, and we don't work off of opinions. We work off of what the rules actually are. And when you understand what that networking rule is about, and at the time that it was written in the mid '60s, that rule was really about connecting to the phone system, like hams did back in those days for a phone patch. All right, that was the coolest thing in the world for somebody to drive around in their convertible car with a telephone headset, a handset, and talk on the telephone as they're parked or driving down the road on an old school Bell phone telephone handset, because that was a capability that hams had that almost nobody else did. Hams were doing car phones before car phones were even car phones. And a lot of that kind of led to the idea with the telcos that, hey, we need to invest in that technology and expand on it. But that's what the rule is really written about, is about a phone patch. But they didn't want GMRS users making phone calls over GMRS frequencies like the hams do. And the public switch network that those rules talk about, at that time, there was no internet. So the rules don't ever mention the internet, because at the time they were written, there wasn't any such thing. And the 2017 revisions don't really address the internet either. So there's no prohibition against what we're doing in the Part 95 rules. And I can say that comfortably, because if there were, I think we would have gotten a letter from the FCC by now that said, hey, knock it off. But that's not happening, because the rule doesn't really say that, and I think that that's pretty well understood at this point. So all of this is to say that when you review the Part 95 rules, do this as an exercise to educate yourself and pay attention to the rule, the letter, the spirit, the meaning, and also what's not there. So all of that is to say, this concludes the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. It's the longest closing I think I've ever done. We had a total of Blue Ridge 63. Can you tell us how many chickens we had tonight?
Blue Ridge 63. We had 65 chickens tonight.
Outstanding. We had a total of 65 chickens tonight. That would have been an excellent opportunity for Blue Ridge 63 to have closed while he had the air, but now he's going to have to just pry bar his way in with everybody else. We had 66. Did he say 65? 65 chickens tonight. Net Control will now be returning the repeaters back to normal use. It's about time. Everyone who signed in should sign out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and remember, comments on the YouTube videos show engagement with the video and help the channel grow. Tune in next week. What are we talking about next week? It looks like next week's topic is going to be football and college and NFL rivalries, favorite teams, and do you engage in fantasy football? We're just getting ready for football season coming up right around the corner. So we'll talk a little bit about that. I know that Julie has been very engaged in fantasy football for several years now, so we'll see if she has any thoughts she wants to share with us. And, fantasy football is a really growing interest field, and I've never really engaged in it. It looks like it takes way more time than I have studying the players, but I'm fascinated by the idea that you can have a team that really isn't a football team on the field, but it's various players. And, Julie's watching 4 or 5 different games each week to keep up with her team, because she has a player on this team and a player on that team. And, it's bizarre, but it's also kind of cool. So we're going to talk about that next week. I don't know anything about it. We'll bring in a couple of people that maybe do. Perhaps Blue Ridge 64 can be available for next week's net. We'll see if we can make that happen. Hopefully I'll see 63 and 64 this weekend, and I'll see if I can do some arm twisting. But very good. All right, so that's our topic next week, so be sure and tune in for that. Thanks for allowing us to serve as your net control this evening. Good night, everyone. This is Atlanta 946 WQYR 514. My name is Justin.
And this is WSAL 368, Atlanta 263. My name is Rogers.
And this is WRUB 711, Atlanta 519. My name is Gary.
We are North Georgia GMRS Network.
And Mike.
And we are clear. Blue Ridge 63, do you have a comment to make?
And we are clear. This is WRWM 344, Blue Ridge 63, and I'm clear as well. Have a good night.
All right.